this presentation, I hope to explain what I've been doing here in Piste. I wish to present my work by reading some excerpts from my written project, and at the same time, in honor of how I have conducted my research, I would like to explain and present my explanatory model of my experience. So, basically, I'm going to start with
Did you say your name?
No, Helen. I'm Gabi. Over the past, it's been 4 weeks that I've really been working on this. I've been doing research on the experiences of women and their childbirth/pregnancies in a Yucatan community. As you all know, I came down here wanting to work on childbirth because my plan of study is to go to medical school, and I've used a lot, in creating and defining my research problem, I've used a lot of background information that I have gained from previous anthropology courses, such as reproductive anthropology, approaches and theories, and articles that I have been given by previous professors. And I have also gained some background information on biological and anatomical information on human reproduction and fetal development in my biology courses, and I've been fortunate enough to shadow and work with a gynecologist in Fort Wayne, Indiana, named Dr. Amici, who I owe a lot of credit for why I came down here wanting to study this. Some of the anthropological studies that I have used and that I've chosen to cite on midwifery in Yucatan have been Birth and Four Cultures by Brigitte Jordan and Robert Redfield and Via Rojas Chancom chapter on midwifery. What I've noticed and what has helped me define my research problem is that these ethnographies that I have read and I have cited have had in-depth descriptions on the many methods and beliefs on childbirth there are in the Yucatec culture. Most importantly, their fundamental focus has been the job of the partera, which is the midwife, and how they learn about childbirth and help women before, during, and after childbirth. Seeing that there has been so much previous anthropological research done on childbirth in Yucatan, I decided I needed a new approach. There needed to be the camera angle needed to be switched so that I wouldn't be copying other people's work, but rather building off of it. Because of my previous course in medical anthropology, I decided to use an experiential approach out of the 6 approaches that I have studied, and which involves using and documenting explanatory models. My hopes with the research project were to learn more about childbirth in the context of a different culture than Fort Wayne, Indiana, in which I have done participant observation. Yes. So in order to develop the most focused research problem I could, and so I didn't seem like I was copying every other anthropologist that has come down here, I have used articles such as an article by Lela and Pollock, and let me find the name for those real quick. It's over medical students and the cadaver in social and cultural context, and how medical students learn to be doctors, and how I can compare and contrast that to how parteras learn to become parteras, and how we gain this conceptualization, how we gain knowledge as how they gain knowledge as healers, and another article that I've chosen to use is, there's one by Robbie E. Davis Floyd, and it's called Virtual in the Hospital, Giving Birth the American Way, and that basically is an ethnography of what birth is like in the United States. And it uses also explanatory models, so I was really inspired by Davis Floyd's article. So I would say that I would owe most of the beginning of my project to what I have learned in previous courses and previous articles that I've read and I think that's because this is such a well-researched topic. So I wrote my research proposal, and I decided on how I needed to spending my last 3.5 weeks in Piste. My first step was to develop connections with women in the community, and most importantly, what I wanted to do was find a key informant so that I could start to develop not only rapport with her and a really strong relationship with her, but develop a basis of the conceptualizations of childbirth in Yucatan so that I could further understand it, not just saying, oh, I read Chen Kong, oh, I read this, but in the context of now, 2010, what are people thinking? So I asked my host mother, Marta Pat, if she knew anyone who had been assisted by a partera, because I wanted to start with someone who had been assisted by a partera. My host grandmother, fortunately, she has become my key informant, and I have developed a very strong relationship with her. She lives 3 houses down from me, and has been, I owe her a lot of what I've found to her helping me. My project started the 2nd week of field school, and she came over on a Friday afternoon and just sat me down and just started spilling for almost 3 hours her entire experience with all her 4 birds. And I just sat there and my jaw dropped because I was like, this is so easy. Oh my gosh. And I fell in love with her immediately because the woman knows how to talk and knows how to woo you. And I was really excited, and I was really, I felt really good about being down here, and I was like, oh, this project's going to go great. And by beginning a relationship with her, I thought I was going to be able to develop more in-depth research questions and understand how I wanted to approach my conversations with other women. After talking with her and some insight from Dr. Castaneda, I decided to focus also on the medical pluralism of childbirth expressed in these explanatory models in the present day. I became interested in how women integrated being attended by allopathic doctors in practice at the same time during the same pregnancy. In other words, how traditional medicine was being integrated into allopathic medicine, and what happens when these 2 methods cross paths and meet. So I developed some more in-depth research questions along the way, and not everything was done before. Along the way, while talking to women and while getting advice from the staff, I was able to further define my project. Most of my connections were made via Doña Magdalena and fellow classmates, and for Keith too. I decided that since I was doing, initially when I was writing my proposal, I decided that since I was doing an experiential approach and I was going to mainly focus on the explanatory models of the women as patients, I was going to conduct unstructured and informal conversations with women, interviews. But I kind of ran into a problem with that, which I'll get into later. But some conversations were recorded using a voice recorder and some were not. The decision to use a voice recorder, the camera, the notes right in front of the woman is basically based on the context of the conversation. And I think that has a lot to do with what I'm studying. I'm studying stories that women give me, and it's a very personal topic. It's, they're babies, a feeling that most women will tell you you don't have until you have your first child, and that you can't understand. And so not every context gave the air of that it should have been documented with a voice recorder, but rather I should just sit there and listen and appreciate the story she was telling me. I had ran into some trouble with my interviews because it was on Thursday, June 10th, I was called downstairs from the treehouse by Castillo to meet Juan Castillo Concom's 8.5-month pregnant wife. And this would be my 3rd conversation. Previous to this, I had spoken to Doña Magdalena and to Ileana. And those were great conversations because as I had stated, I just sat there and they spilled their entire explanatory model right in front of me. Without me asking, it was really, hey, come sit down, and it was amazing. So I think that I kind of went into the rest of my interviews blindsided and thinking that I was just going to say, hey, this is what my project is, and they were going to just talk to me, which is so arrogant of me, but I don't know. This is my first field school experience, but when I went downstairs to go talk to Selmy, Juan Castillo's wife, I looked at her and they just kind of said, go sit in the car, and I went, and I just went, and I sat there and I looked at her and I just couldn't think of anything to say, because you could just tell she was sitting there going, what does this go on? I'm about to give birth in like a week, and I was just like, hey, how many months? And she just kind of laughed at me, and I was like, oh shit. And because I'd never had to ask substantial questions before and really, really work as an ethnographer to get my answers, because my previous interviews, mind you, the only interviews I had ever had in my life were completely driven by my research informants, and like I like how I like to explain it is they had taken the interviewer in interview roles and let me join along for the ride, which I appreciate. So I sat with Selmy and I gathered myself and thought, okay, Gabby, you're an ethnography student, really, really, really try. And I apologized for being so disorganized and tried to make some small talk while I thought. And I slowly began a conversation with her. I asked her whom she was being attended by, the medicine/remedies she had been taking throughout her entire pregnancy, the Maya word for sobada, which is bats, and any other question I could possibly squeeze from my poor little brain. And I got a decent interview out, but I think that is when I started realizing that I had a lot more. I wasn't done with the research proposal. I had a lot more to go back and fix and edit. Selmy's a petite woman, her early 20s. She's really shy. She's very, very nice. But another thing I learned from her, and although she didn't talk to me a lot, I learned a lot from her, and it probably was the defining interview in my time here. She answered most of my questions with a simple yes or no, and then I realized that I was the error in question asking, and if she was saying if she was only answering my questions with yes or no, it means that I needed to develop my questions differently. I needed to start over. So Juan Castillo actually helped me, and he said, why are you freaking out? And I said, well, because I've never done this before. I'm really bad at it. What if I fail at ethnography? I was like, I fail. I'm horrible at this. My run with anthropology is over. I'm done. And he was like, no. You go and you talk to people. He's like, because you're a human being, they're a human being. Just go and hang out. He's like, talk about anything. So I realized that I needed to stop being selfish and going in there and saying, okay, I need my interview, and I need to get my information in 30 minutes, and then just leave it at that. But I'd rather need to just go hang out and talk with women about anything. Just, hey, what, do you color your hair? I color my hair. So I went back and I also looked at chapter 25 of the Ethnography Handbook, and I created my own style of ethnography, and I'm pleased with it, and so far it's gone well. I just had to struggle first. I'm 5 weeks into my project. I've learned my personal challenges, and roughly I've had 11, 12 conversations with women and men. Gaspar has actually helped me some. I've had multiple conversations with the same informant in which I learn something new every time, and I feel like I develop closer relationships with them. In terms of analysis, I'm choosing to analyze all my informants' explanatory models with one another and pull out the similarities and differences. My research is not entirely done. I have my data, and I don't know what I'm going to analyze. I need to sit down and read over everything again, make charts, cross-analyze. But I'm really focusing on this new medicine that they're using, and it's traditional and biomedicine mixed together, and just that's what I'm choosing to analyze. So in my conclusion, I have learned more than how many women have had their monthly cuts and ultrasounds in the span of their pregnancies, but rather the importance of what I have learned has been the way women feel. I have been fortunate to meet women of all different ages who all have experienced childbirth and have opened up to me about a very personal topic. I've heard stories that have brought tears to my eyes and cringed at the amount of suffering some women have felt. Most importantly, I have learned that although childbirth can be a very technical process in biomedicine, there's a very emotional individual experience at the moment.
Let this guy go by.
What is that? Is that a panaderia? No, that's a different one.
Does anyone understand what they say?
It is a
No, I can't. I can never understand. But I can't even understand lyrics in English.
Okay, there's a very emotional individual experience that all the women share in common. whether they have a C-section or a natural birth. There's happiness, pain, and as someone who expressed to me a miracle that creates the entire childbirth process for them. And to the woman, the relationship they develop with either the midwife or the doctor is very important because they are confided in these professionals to take care of them and their baby. As a pre-medical student, I am taught to shadow doctors and study until 3 in the morning to meet my requirements so that I may enter medical school. However, I am learning through this experience that to understand the importance of becoming a healer or a doctor, understanding the role of the patient is equally as important as CAT scan cats. And so that's what I have thus far.